Welcome everybody to another episode of Bootstrapped Solo. I am your host, Pratik Shah, and today we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about running and growing your own practice. This podcast is for those that want to know what it's really like to start, run, and grow a practice. Today's guest is the one and only Brian Panish. He runs Panish, Shea, Boyle, Ravipudi, a 45 attorney firm out in Los Angeles that focuses on personal injury. He started his practice back in 2005 and has been growing strong ever since. If you are part of the personal injury space and you haven't heard of Panish, Shea, Boyle, Ravipudi, you should pick up a magazine or read a blog. The firm's successes are legendary, and so we're very blessed to have Brian here. Brian, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for inviting me, Pratik. I want to remind you we have an office in Las Vegas also, not just Los Angeles.
Right, but it started in Los Angeles. We've expanded, and we have, I think there's 14 or 15 lawyers now licensed in Nevada. Is that correct?
I think close to 20.
Close to 20 now. Great. So, everybody obviously knows about your guys' successes, the big verdicts, the big results, but I want to talk a little bit kind of about the beginning, and I really kind of see this as three parts. One is the beginning, your early career. You started building. Then kind of scaling the practice and scaling it at a high level, and then kind of where we are now and what the future holds for the firm as well as the profession. So let's start back in the beginning. You got licensed in 1984 and started at the district attorney's office.
Correct.
Is that correct?
I was there briefly, though, and went to an insurance defense firm, Engstrom, Lipscomb & Lack, where I had been a law clerk during law school. And I stayed there for 2 years. I tried about 17 jury trials. I won them all, primarily representing the defendants. And I got some tremendous experience working on a variety of cases, just garden variety slip and fall, auto accidents, product liability, aviation, helicopter crashes, some mass aviation disasters. And I feel like I got 10 or 15 years experience in just 2 years of practice there.
Yeah, 17 trials in 2 years in the civil side is kind of unheard
Well, that
of.
was back in the day. That was in the 1985, 86 period of time. More cases were going to trial, but I would take anyone's case and go to trial, and they were all over California. And a lot of people didn't want to travel out of town, and I was up in towns like Willows and Glenn County. I was in Siskiyou County. I was in Butte County, and so forth, and Visalia and Hanford and Bakersfield, all the way down to Imperial County, El Centro. So I was young, and I was unmarried, and I was just going everywhere I could to try cases.
Just get in the courtroom and just get the reps.
That was it, nothing like it.
Well, yeah, and I think nowadays, as you mentioned, back in the 80s and 90s, you were getting a trial a lot easier. Nowadays, if you want to get 17 trials in 2 years, really the only way to do it is to do it in the criminal space, at the DA's office or the PD's office. How do you feel about
I think that's true. And I used to not think the skills were so transferable, but I do believe now that the skills you'll learn, whether you're trying a DUI case or a fraud case or a murder case, are certainly transferable to the civil arena. And being in the courtroom, getting comfortable, questioning, dealing with the jury, dealing with the judge, I think you'll get great experience doing that. Those jobs are not easy to come by either. And you take lower pay, but I think it's worth it if you can get in and get a place where you're going to really try cases. That would be an invaluable experience today.
Understood. So you're there for 2 years at Engstrom, Lipscomb & Lack. Then you went to Green, Boyle, Wheeler, right?
Well, at the time it was called Green, O'Reilly, Paul Simon, McMillan, Wheeler, and Rosenberg, and there were close to 30 attorneys. And part of the firm, a large part, was doing asbestos cases. They had a Johns Manville bankruptcy and other things that occurred that kind of hurt that practice. And then the rest of the lawyers were doing individual cases. Significantly, I was involved in product liability. I worked for Brown Green, who at the time, my first year, was the president of then known as the California Trial Lawyers. There was huge tort reform being undertaken in California. There had been ballot initiative on Prop 51, and 3 Supreme Court justices had been recalled. That was just in 1986, 1985, and then into 1988, where there was an initiatives for a reduction on attorney fees damages and such. So Brown Green spent most of the year in Sacramento working with the legislature. In the last minute, they what it entered into was called the napkin deal, which Willie Brown then went and passed through the legislature, and the government signed into law. The governor signed it in, kind of a peace treaty, and the plaintiff lawyers gave up some uh, types of liability, some that we later dealt with, but it was something that had to be done. So then we under the fear. People don't realize today, although there is an attorney initiative that's been circulating in California, attorney fee initiative, that when I began practicing, the biggest attack was on the tort system and attempt to limit victims' rights, to close the courtroom, to cap damages. And we were spending a lot of time fighting against that to preserve the right to the jury trial, to preserve our clients' rights, and to keep us in business doing what we wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that could have been devastating. It's kind of similar to what's been happening out in Florida recently.
Oh, it was very, very tough and very scary, and it was very real.
Yeah.
And people need to realize that lawyers really sacrificed a lot fighting that. Many, many lawyers gathered together, walking precincts, getting people out to vote to beat that initiative, which we won by 1 point something%.
Right to the edge. So you were at Green, Boyle, Wheeler from basically 1986 until 2005.
Correct. So it was almost like 18, 19 years, something like that. And had just a tremendous time there. Great opportunity, great lawyers, worked underneath some fabulous lawyers, saw some great trial lawyers trying cases. Everybody in the firm wanted to try cases. Some of the cases were very difficult. Lawyers were winning very difficult cases. In the trial, many of them didn't get collected, but they were winning them in the courtroom because there were some great lawyers there, great mentors, and great opportunity. And the firm, I believe at the time, was the top plaintiff personal injury firm in California. That's why I wanted to work there. I wanted to work for Brown Green, who was certainly, if not the top, one of the top 2 or 3 trial lawyers in California, and had a national reputation.
Yeah, and you had, I mean, not only did the firm have tremendous success, Brown Green's a legend. There's no argument about that. You had tremendous success within the firm. You became a partner, but then in 2005, you decided to leave and start your own shop. Why leave?
Well, I think I wanted to do my own thing. I mean, I loved it there. I loved all the people. They gave me great opportunity, but eventually I wanted to be kind of the coach myself and be the person that was making all decisions. Certainly I had input before, but I was one of, at the time, 4, 5, 6 partners, and I just wanted to do it a little differently and decided to do my way. It was amicable, and we left the firm and started a new firm. I think we had 4 attorneys at the time, myself, Adam Shea, Kevin Boyle, and another gentleman named Clay who joined us. And we had a small office, and immediately I was in a trial in Burbank. Adam was in a trial in Orange County with Bruce Burlett, our old firm. And then I immediately got the verdict in Burbank, took out on a plane, flew to San Francisco, and began a trial with Kevin Boyle, which that case sent us off. We tried the Dominguez case, death of a young child and witnessed by her mother by a municipal repairman for the city of San Francisco, disputed liability, small offer. Mother witnessed her daughter die in front of her. Jury awarded $26 million against the city and county of San Francisco. And so that's how we started, and we just kept going to trial and trial again after that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a way to start off with a bang. There's no argument about that. So obviously these were cases you were working on at Brown Green's firm. You guys made your deal or whatever it was to leave, take some with you, try them, whatever that was. And then there's going to be a fee split, but some of that helps fund.
Well, that was all worked out ahead of time. And really,
yeah,
really the way it worked is, we took our cases, they took their cases, and, there were some that were worked on jointly. There had to be a sharing agreement, but it was never a problem. It all worked out, and it worked out great for everybody.
Okay. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? That's the important thing is when you have business partners and separations are going to happen, but trying your best to keep it amicable, to keep it fair for everybody. I think there's a lost art sometimes in
And
that
staying
business
out of
world.
litigation is a lot of energy and expense and stress that you're going to not be able to use on your cases to help your clients, and you're fighting, and it may be personal. Some people take it personally and they feel hurt or upset, and
Yep.
litigation ensues, and nobody wins in that. And they knew that, and certainly I knew that. And they were a big, large firm. I don't want to be in a lawsuit with anyone. And
Right.
it was worked out and no problems. And I would encourage everybody to do
Yeah.
that. You waste a lot of time getting in these.
A lot of people waste a lot of time
Yes,
on
and
that
it can
stuff.
be very,
Fighting
it
over
can be
pennies.
worked out very easily, and they usually end up where they would have been anyway.
Exactly. All right. So 2005, 2006, you're starting your firm. You hit a couple of verdicts early, and you're focusing solely on personal injury at that time, or are you just, hey, anything that needs to be tried, I'm willing to try it type of
Well,
stance?
anything we try, but primarily personal injury, product liability. Got involved with some mass torts. That's when I first started getting involved in mass torts. Well, I had been involved in my other firm in the fen litigation, represented several hundred people. That turned out very good. Tried one of the cases that ended up settling, which was for the largest amount. That was during trial after almost 3 months. And then I got involved in the Vioxx litigation, ended up trying one of the bellwether Vioxx cases in Los Angeles, which is a real experience going up against a large drug company, at the time J&J,
Yeah.
and they had set a dicta or a edict that they were going to try all these cases, and they were going around the country trying cases left and right. And they had teams of lawyers, and they were well prepared, and they were excellent lawyers. And it was quite a learning experience for me. And I call that my greatest hung jury, getting a hung jury in that case, and eventually leading to a multi-billion-dollar settlement for all the
Yeah.
cases. But it was hard. Those lawyers were great. And in that case, we did the final argument on one issue that kept coming up 4 times after we did the first argument. And there's a provision that allows you to do that in the California Rules of Court. And the court was pushing it, and it was kind of fun. And it ended up being 8-4, we believe, for us, and hung
Oh,
jury. And after this trial began before in maybe October, and it ended sometime in January.
yeah. So that leads me to my next question. I mean, you're starting a personal injury firm in Los Angeles, arguably the most competitive practice area in the most competitive geographical location in the country, if not one of the most, if not the most, one of the most. You're focusing on these larger catastrophic cases, whether it be mass torts or single event. You want to try them. You're sacrificing a lot of time. You're being in the courtroom. How do you balance building the business of making sure everybody knows who you are? You're generating cases, paying payroll, funding all this stuff that you got to fund in these cases. At the same time, being able to go do what you love to do, which is go try these cases and get big
You
verdicts.
forgot the most important point. To go sign up new cases.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Intaking new cases.
So
Yeah.
it was hard, and I had partners who were helping. But I mean, it's a 24/7 job, especially when you're trying to get going. So have you tried cases? Obviously, the best marketing is jury verdicts for personal injury lawyers. We had other
Yeah.
people working on the management. The management wasn't so good in the beginning. We obviously had been in a large firm of maybe 30 lawyers. I wasn't the main manager. I watched, saw what was going on. I wasn't the one doing everything. So obviously, there's a learning curve on that. And
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
happen, setting up the office, how do you set up an office, furniture,
Yeah.
all of that, personnel, took a while.
Yeah.
And, we were kind of focusing in the beginning on trying the cases, weren't growing the firm as much. Finally got to take a breath, had a little break, and was able to start recalculating what we're really going to need, and went from, one couple offices to a whole floor. And then
Yeah. Pretty quickly,
it
sounds
took
like.
a little while, but new people were coming in, more lawyers came into the firm, more cases were being generated coming into the law firm, needed more personnel, but it's a never ending battle. I mean, all the time you're looking at the personnel, trying to figure out how you can be better. Everything, and every law
Yeah.
firm can be better. Certainly we can be a lot better in everything we do, whether it be from trying the case to dispersing the money to the client to running the finances of the law firm. and we can.
And at the same time, dealing with the ever-changing law, right? Appellate court, has a new ruling. You got to change the way you handle stuff. State bar issues a new ruling. You got to change the way you handle stuff. So there's a lot
And you got to
going
be
on.
on top of what's going on, and you got to know, oh wow, they're
Yeah.
changing these rules. The state bars now send out these new rules. You got to notify the client within a certain period of time when the money comes in, when it has to be dispersed in a period of time. It's all completely new. So you got to recalibrate. You got to put new rules, procedures in play. Especially in our firm,
Yeah.
we have a significant number of cases settling or resolving every year, and that takes quite a bit of time just to negotiate the liens, make sure you have the liens, make sure the client's set up, whether there's structured settlement or cash payments, make sure that everyone that's supposed to be paid is going to get paid, make sure that all the costs, the doctors, everybody is notified, and dealing with government entities on liens can take a lot of time.
Yeah, Medicare, Medi-Cal, they don't get easier. They get harder every year. So you have this vision. You launch your firm. You have the vision of what you want to build. You want to build the best firm. You obviously, you were working at a great firm, but you had a vision of what you thought you could do better, and you wanted to launch it. But everybody, when they launch their own firm, whenever somebody launches a firm, nobody launches their firm saying, I want to be the worst firm. They all launch their firm saying they want to be the best. What do you think you've done differently?
Well, first of all, I think everyone that wants to start their own firm has some trepidation. I certainly did. You think it's going to be great, but you don't know. And usually, most people, it works out. So, one thing is don't be afraid to take a risk, because in the end, it's going to pay out for you big. So, how do you do it? I mean, that's another thing. And you have to adjust as the time goes. Initially, we didn't have a lot of lawyers because we didn't have a lot of cases. And as we got more cases, we had to ramp up. As we started mass torts, we had to get a lawyer in that was an expert in mass torts. I had worked with this lawyer, Pete Kaufman. He was in mass torts 11 Papatonia firm down in Pensacola, Florida. Him and I had tried the Vioxx case together. He had come out here with me. I said, hey, Pete, you like it out here, huh? Maybe you might want to move to California. And eventually he moved to California, took the bar, and has been pretty much running the mass tort part of our firm.
Yeah,
and he's still here, and he's in a trial right now. So hopefully he's going to win that case. Yeah. So you have to build out parts of it. I mean, the accounting function was always the hardest part. Now I think by now we had to hire probably another 10 people to get that organized to where it really needed to be able to move quickly, to service the clients for their needs, to deal with all the banking issues, and then to deal with the banking controversies and is the bank going to fail? Do you have the right bank? All these new things that are just coming up every day. You have to be on top of what's going on. So it takes a lot of work.
You guys can't talk.
I think you got to do it kind of, I like to say, in modules or in parts. I mean, and you work on each different part, maybe 3 or 4 you're working on at the same time. Obviously, recruitment is a big thing. How do you find the right lawyers to implement what you believe is your culture and is your style, how you want the cases handled? You got to have lawyers that are going to fit. Lawyers are going to get along with other people in the law firm. Lawyers that have top academic backgrounds, both legal writing and going and being able to go to court. So finding those people that are a good fit is not easy either, and that's taking a lot of time. And we're always, working on that too.
Yeah, and there's a couple things you mentioned that I want to touch in on our second segment. But before I finish up this first segment on the early years, you started your practice around year 1920 of you being being a lawyer. So you had been in the practice a while. You had the experience as a lawyer, but at that same time, I know you're a family man. You had children, and you're doing all these things while at the same time trying to be around for the kids. Was there a balance? How did you manage balance?
I had one daughter, played 3 sports, 4 years, varsity, high school. I don't think I missed any soccer games. Plus, she's doing club on the weekends. I'm at club soccer games. I'm at club basketball. I'm with coaching my son. I coached all my kids' teams. So I did the best I could to be there. Now, sometimes you miss the vacation, sometimes some things, and certainly my wife could bring up a lot of stuff I missed.
But that's a different
not
podcast.
Being present all the time at home when you're working on a case and trying to disengage when you come home from the trial that you're in is pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you touched on vacations, and that's something I want to ask about too, because if you're trying cases, you're building a firm, you're trying to intake new cases, you're recruiting, you're staying on top of changes and stuff. How do you unplug for vacation? How do you not? I mean, do you not in the beginning?
It's
How does it
hard. I
work?
mean, in the beginning, didn't go so good, and I got a lot of arguments with my family, like, "Hey, come on, get off the phone. What are you doing?" I thought we're on vacation. And as time goes on, it gets easier, and you get a little more secure in what you're doing. You're not as worried as much about things. Maybe you have other people helping you that you can trust, that you're not worried about what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, I've been all over the world. I've received calls on cases. I was in a cruise ship in the Mediterranean on a boated trip, got a case call on my cell phone, 3 in the morning. I call a guy at my firm and he's in Utah the next day signing up the case. And so
I love that.
if somebody's going to call me on a new case, pretty much, listen, at a funeral, wedding, I'm gonna take the call. I would say, "Excuse me," I might step out of the Sistine Chapel or wherever I might be, but if it's a important case, I'm gonna take the call.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about scaling and growing the practice, right? We talked about kind of the inception of it, but let's talk a little bit about kind of scaling it. There's a lot of people that start practices. There's a lot of people that, they stay small or maybe they grow in different fashions. Everybody's got a different business model. Your business model was obviously high quality cases, high quality lawyers, high quality verdicts, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Many firms have one good trial lawyer or none. Some have two. How have you been able to have so many lawyers that have had so much success in the courtroom? Is it recruitment? Is it training? What has
Number
been
one, I
successful for
think the
you?
most important thing is grit. The lawyers that are gonna do that have a passion for what they're doing, and they're gonna do everything they can to be successful. And they may not have come from the best school, and they may not have been on the law review, but they're gonna work harder than anyone, and they're gonna do what it takes to win for their clients. And it all comes in different spaces. We have lawyers in our firm that went to the top 5 law schools that are in the law review, and we have other ones that went to, not so high end like me, that went to a school that
Yeah.
I think is a good law school. They never ask you what law school you went when you appear in court, but
Yeah.
and I had different attributes that work for me, and we have for all different law schools in all different parts of the country. I think it's really
Yeah.
the passion for what they do and the grit to never give up and do everything they can to be successful, I think is what we're looking for. That they're not going to.
Yeah, I mean there has to be that grit, that commitment to wanting to be the best, right? Wanting to get better every day. Like that's a mentality that some people have that they just want to get better every day and some people just don't. They're happy with where
No,
they're
for
at.
sure, and that's
So, when
fine.
you
And
talk
that's
about
fine if you. I mean, you're going to
right,
only get back what you put into it, and if you
right,
and what your future is choices that you make. You can say, "I'm going to do that work on Saturday," or "I'm going to go play golf," and "I'm going to go to the picnic," or "I'm going to go and read these depositions," or "I'm going to work on this."
right.
So you make choices, and sometimes those choices mostly determine how it's going to end up. And you got to keep a balance, obviously, but there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. Many times I feel sorry for myself. Why am I here on Saturday? Everybody else is out at the beach, and why am I in here? Why do I have to do this? Why aren't these other guys doing it? But that's because I want to do it, and I'm going to do it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, so let's say you're kind of sitting in an interview with a young lawyer, a couple years in, has no experience in trial, hasn't, is eager to do that. They're obviously applying for your job. What are the characteristics you're looking for in somebody like that you feel that, throughout the years you've seen the type of lawyers that become successful and the
but
ones
it's
that don't?
hard. I'll tell
What
you
are
what,
some of
it's
the
really hard to know until you're with
Yeah,
somebody. But obviously, you're
yeah,
looking for what have they done outside of school. I mean, were they in athletics is always a very good thing, or were they in student government? Were they in the debate team? Things like that. What kind of sports did they play? What languages do they speak? And you can ask about that, but you're never really going to know until they come. Now, if they're coming from another law firm and you see them in action, obviously you have a much better idea. But when you're hiring someone right out of law school, we like to have as many as we can be law clerks, get some
mm,
feel for them. But until they have, deadlines and responsibilities, you never really know. And not everybody's made for this type of practice. I mean, there are many other
Right.
great practices to be in that have different hours and different requirements that are much better for others. I have brothers that wanted to go into other type practices, and they enjoy it and they loved it. And what I do is what my dad, who did what I did, told me not to do. He told me, don't go into that personal injury. That's a dying field. There's trying to pass no fault, all these things. You need to go in a
Right.
big law firm where you're going to get a steady income and you're not going to have a lot of risk, and you can have a family and don't worry. So, but all I
Yeah,
want to do
I
is
think
do
all
personal injury.
fathers.
So I wouldn't want to be a lawyer otherwise, or do
Right.
trials
I
is
mean,
what I wanted to do. And personal injury is primarily where you're going to do them, unless you're in criminal.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I think a lot of parents want to de-risk their kid's life as much as possible, and they give advice that way. But at the same time, it's your life. It's that individual person's life. If they want to take a risk, they got to do it, and they got to go
That
all
no
in.
question about it, and that's where the grit comes in. And you can read all about it. Angela Duckworth's book. She studied it. She has a grit scale, and try to give that to most of the lawyers. The test on that, see where they end up on the scale.
Yeah. So there's a lot that obviously has worked in your career. There's tremendous success, but everybody has things that they wish they'd done differently. What would that be for the great Brian Panish?
Wow. I mean, well, I wish that. I mean, not too much. I mean, the way I'm telling you, I'm pretty blessed. The way things have gone in my life, I was a dreamer. Okay, I thought I was going to be in the NFL. I love sports, played college football, but that didn't work out for me. And I had big dreams always. But I never could have dreamed as big as I did of what all the success and the fun that I've had and the people that have lives we've been able to help over time. But what would I do differently? I think maybe I would have started my own firm a little earlier. But one of the reasons why I didn't, besides the fact that I liked where I was I had younger kids, and they needed more attention at that time. So it really wasn't the right time to do it. And timing is always critical. You're probably better to do it sooner rather than later. So maybe I would have started earlier, but other than that, maybe there's some cases I wouldn't have taken. And I did learn early on, and I try to instill this in everyone, the most important decision you make is the case you don't take. And case selection, and I've seen it in my old firm and in this firm, cases that are lost that can put a significant, you know, time commitment and financial for the firms, are cases that maybe you shouldn't have taken. And that even though they were tough, there were things that stuck out to you that you should have been red flags and not taken the case. And it's unfortunate you have a catastrophically injured person come to you, but you have to have a chance to win the case, and you can't just take every case thinking they're going to settle. In any case you think you're going to settle, it's not going to settle. You have to.
Right.
My philosophy is any case that I sign up, I'm going to go stand in front of the jury and spend whatever amount of time it takes to try the case. Otherwise, I don't really want to handle the case.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
that's
let me ask you about that. So as you build the firm and you're deciding to try these cases, what happens a lot of times, as you know, is you get some real offers on these cases, right? Adjusters come along, defense attorneys come along. They say, hey, look, I want to put 5, 6, 7, 8 million bucks on the table. And you got to analyze whether you're going to walk away from that and go try the case, which you've done countless number of times in your career. How do you build that confidence or not have that fear that, hey, if I walk away from this 8 million bucks and the jury doesn't go the way I want it to go, I got a
Well,
problem on my
first
hands.
of all, it's the client's decision, and it's all about the communication. Lawyers get in trouble. You see, whenever the state bar problems, it was the breakdown in communication with the client, and you have to be fully relaying every settlement offer, not in writing. Preferably, if it's made in writing, you have to respond in writing to the client. Make sure the client's really fully informed. And many of these clients, and I've been in so many cases where I really want to go to trial, but the client wanted to take the money, and I'm never going to tell them not to take it. I'm going to say I wouldn't take it, but it's your decision. And maybe you talk to them and tell them what you think you can get more. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. Now, I've been in a case where there was full disclosure, talking to the clients, and there's a $25 million offer. And it's a hard, disputed product liability tread separation rollover case. So not an easy case. Case went to trial for 3 months. About 4 or 5 days into jury deliberation, I thought the trial went pretty well. They had offered 10 million during the trial and 15, 20, 25. And this guy would come deliver letters to me with the offer in writing. So of course I'm giving that right to the client. I'm writing to him. I'm meeting with him. But we had a 7 million settlement with another defendant. So that made some,
There was some
level
house
of
money.
comforts for the client. Some.
Yeah.
But this is a quadriplegic, so she's going to need lifetime medical care. So the jury comes back, and the first question is the product defective in manufacture? And then was it a cause of the accident, of the collision? Number 2, was the product defective in design? Design case was harder in this case. And causation. So the jury comes back and says, what if we can't answer number 3? So that would lead you to believe that they've already answered number 1. If they answer number 1 no and number 3 no, we lose the case. Right. It's after 5 days. And the lawyer comes up to me and says, hey, just so there's no misunderstanding, the $25 million is withdrawn. And just like that. And, I had to go tell the clients, and they were pretty strong. The father was a well-known boxing referee, so he was handled it. And eventually the jury gave $55 million, but we tried to settle it later, and we almost had it settled for 30-some million. That's why it didn't happen, and we got a much larger verdict, got paid, but it happens. And, I've had another case. I never lost where I had a lot of money on the table. I had another case where I was high lows on several cases that I lost. Client got some money, but no.
Well, that's another question. How do you
let a lot of left the money on the table? Clients won't take it. We want more usually.
Yeah. Now that's you bring me to my next question. There's a lot of firms out there that advertise big verdicts. You've had a ton of big verdicts, and there's been people that talk about, well, a lot of these never really get collected. They're kind of appealed and they end up settling for kind of pennies, or there's no insurance or whatever. What's your position on the big verdicts you've had? Are you collecting them all? How does that look? How does that work?
I've collected almost every single one of them. I didn't collect all of the 4.9 billion, but collected a significant amount. But every other 8-figure verdict, but one, I've collected. One was 17 million. I was J&OV'd on appeal on an employment case. Hard employment case, general verdict. So that means there's 2 causes of action. Jury decides only one. They just say yes or no. You don't know which one they decide. Any one is in the favor of the plaintiff. Court threw it out. Went to the Supreme Court, lost. My most recent, a couple of years ago, tried a case in Oakland, got 16 million against a bus company. They appealed it and went to the Supreme Court and got another 4 million in interest, got paid. Sometimes you got to take a little less. But a lot of times I had a case I tried in 2005. It settled for 7-8 million with peripheral as a product liability scraper. Remaining defendants had $1 million insurance each. 3 of them, I demanded all 3. 1 paid, 2 didn't. Got 58 million and collected on $1 million policies.
Collected all 58?
Pretty close. 1 paid before the new trial motion, a certain amount, and then the other had to pay the rest. So we've been very, when I'm trying the case, the number one thing to me is that the client recovers. I'm not trying the case to get the newspaper headline. That's not going to help my client at all. What I'm trying to do is get my client compensated for what they suffered. And, we'd like to get paid too. So I usually collect. I'm trying the case for appeal. I'm not taking too many risks. That one case I lost on appeal was on a question of law, which I disagree with the court, but they found, legal question. There's nothing I could have done in the trial, but I'm playing for the appeal because I want to get paid. And if you try a clean case, chances are pretty good. If you're willing to go all the way through, you're going to get paid.
What do you think in trying cases? You're trying cases against tough defense attorneys who have a ton of experience, just like you do. Insurance companies obviously have a ton of money. We all know that. They're bringing their A game because they want to beat you just like you want to beat them. You're in trial for a lot of money. What do you think has been what are some of the things that have helped you be so successful so consistently against these tough defense attorneys who are good in their own right?
Well, I think it's a team. Most of these defense lawyers, they're there, but the people with them aren't to their level. I think in our firm, the lawyers really are top notch that are working on the case. I'm not working on the case for every minute usually. Some cases I am, but most of them I'm not. There's many cases I've tried where I've taken no depositions. So I'm relying on the other lawyer in our firm or the referral lawyer to have prepared the case, because a lot of it is, obviously it's all based on the evidence, and how the case is prepared and postured and strategized is critical. But if the case is not worked up and you don't have the right experts, no matter how great a lawyer you are, you're not going to win the case. Or if it's a losing case, you got to figure out what the weaknesses are, work on those, figure out how to strengthen those, use the weaknesses to bring your strengths. And it takes a lot of impact and work to do that. And one person can't do it all by themselves.
Yeah, so let's talk about team. We talked about recruiting, we talked about training. One of the things we didn't touch on is attrition, right? Just like yourself, very talented lawyer over at Brown Green's firm, doing well, got promoted, partner, presumably making good money, but you decided to leave and start your own. And what I noticed, I obviously joined the firm a year and a half ago, a little less than a year and a half ago. But one of the things I noticed from the outside is there's just not a lot of attrition at the firm. So how do you keep talent from leaving?
Well, number one, you got to give them opportunities on what they're going to do, and you got to give them chances. And that's where the team approach comes in. More than one person trying the case, letting them do things in the case, I think is important. Number two, they want to be compensated fairly. I think incentivizing them and having performance pay is critical. They're entrepreneurs too. That's why they're in the plaintiff practice. So that's critical. And I think training, and we didn't talk in depth, but we do a lot of training. We put on courses. We have lawyers do demonstrations. And I think we really want to train these lawyers, both for their own good and, obviously to help our firm. We also encourage them to be licensed in multi-jurisdictions, which I think is very helpful for young lawyers when they've just taken one bar to take another bar right away. So now they're more marketable. They can do more. They can go to Nevada. They can go to Arizona. They can go to Oregon and do other cases. And I think things like that, and make it a fun place to work. A good culture, a culture of everyone helping one another. Nobody, jealous, or that guy won the case or that guy won. More everybody's pulling for each other, and they're willing to help one another. And if they need someone to stay late and help to do that, and that's in the staff too. They need to come in late. They got to be in early. They do it because they're committed to the client, and it's all about our clients. And that's our commitment. As the Raiders say, commitment to excellence, but really commitment to do everything we can to maximize the recovery for our clients.
Yeah, when you were saying for younger lawyers getting licensed in multiple jurisdictions and that would make them more marketable, you don't mean that like in a marketable sense to outside of the firm. You mean that within the firm, that if lawyers have different cases and they want to get certain
or outside of the firm,
they have
I say, hey, if look, if somebody came to me, they come to me, they want to set up their own firm, and it's how I encourage them. Okay, that's great. What can we do to help you? I give them cases, and that's fine. I appreciate that. I understand that. But on the other, so I want them to have that. So if they want to do something on their own, they have that. Yeah. But it also is helpful for the firm because we're handling cases in multi-jurisdictions. They can market with other lawyers to bring in cases to the firm. And by, knowing practice rules in different states, I think that really helps you become a better lawyer. And myself being just recently licensed in Nevada, I'm appearing in court, and it's different. So you learn a little more. They do things differently a little bit than they do in Arizona or Texas, where I'm licensed. And just to practice in all those other jurisdictions, I think that's very helpful.
Whenever you're building a business, any type of business, and you're also trying cases, there's ups and downs, right? Like anytime you take a case, you analyze it best you can before you sign the client, before you take the case. but there's surprises in every case. I mean, it happens, right? Maybe not in every case, but it happens that there's surprises. There was something that you didn't know about.
Case. There's
There's no perfect case,
that
right?
comes up.
Right. So you've got these ups and downs of the
So many
cases.
cases that are like you think lock solid perfect, and all of a sudden something comes up to you that you didn't know about, the client didn't tell you about, maybe they didn't even know about it. So there is no, and it's up and down, just like being in trial. My first boss is a guy named Lee Lipscomb. He's from Oklahoma, former insurance adjuster, had a big Oklahoma drawl, and I did 2 or 3 cases with him right away, trials. One was John DeLorean was involved. It's a whole podcast later, but and we were driving home from court. This was in downtown LA, and our office is maybe 15 minutes away, and we drive home every day, talk about what happened that day, drive back to the office. And one day, we had a great day, and he says, Brian, there's nothing better than driving home after having a great day in court. And I said, yeah. And then he goes, but there's nothing worse than driving home after having a bad day in court. And it's a roller coaster. And you need to kind of keep yourself in the middle and not get caught up in the peaks and accelerate too much, or the valleys, and be depressed and down, because it's going to turn around, and it always does. But there are a lot of ups and downs in the personal injury practice. You put everything on the line. The most famous case I was ever in, probably, I lost. And millions of people knew that. But I survived. I mean, I wasn't happy that we lost, but that does happen. You put everything out there, you think you can lose. And in these jury trial business, nobody can tell you exactly what's going to happen. You have calculated decisions, but some things happen and you can lose cases, and you got to get ready to get back and get on the next case.
So I have, I love that. I have 2 more questions on this scaling section, and then I want to move to kind of the future here, and we can I want to keep us on time. One is just focusing simply on the business. What do you think has been helpful for you, and also not helpful for you? Like, what mistakes have you made in trying to scale the business and just focusing on the business side?
On the business side, I think it's important to be aware of the cost of what's happening. And, we've opened offices in other locations, so you've had to, do the build outs and things like that. And I think it's really, what I learned is, you got to have people you trust that can do these things at all the different locations. You want to try it, because we have at least 3 or 4 locations, to do it all the same and to develop systems. I think if earlier on, maybe if we had developed more systemization for doing things, I think that would be made a lot more efficient. I think we can always work on being more efficient. I see a lot of repetition and stuff that could be scaled to be done faster. I think that's important. And, adding people, maybe at times I didn't want to grow as much as maybe was required, and it might make it hard on others. So sometimes, you got to bite the bullet and bring in more people, give people less responsibility. These cases take a lot of work. They need a lot of people to be helping, doing some of the tasks, but running the office, dealing with the personnel, dealing with the accounting, dealing with the finance, dealing with the copy machines and the logistics and the reception and the phones and the computer systems. I mean, there's a lot to it. So being as efficient as possible, I think I learned efficiency is one of my big things now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on the law side, what also happens is you kind of have there can be a problem of riches, right? In the sense that if you're having all these great verdicts, you're having such success, the clients love you, and now all these lawyers are calling you, wanting you to try their case, but you want to give each case the level of attention that you've been giving these cases, because that's the reason why you've been able to have the success you've had. How do you balance that as these cases are coming in? You don't have the funds to go out and hire a bunch of lawyers yet, or maybe you got to take some risks while scaling the law side of things.
Well, I think you don't want to take in too much, because if you can't really handle the case adequately, it's going to hurt your reputation. And someone, you bring a case, somebody brings you a case and they say, oh, they didn't do anything. The last thing with the mediation, they tried to make me settle. I'm saying, why did I bring the case to you? You're selling that you're going to get more money for this case for the client. It's all going to be better for everybody else, and you didn't really do any work on the case. So number one,
Yeah.
you worry about your reputation. But number two, you worry about the client. And if you have too many clients, you're not going to be able to take care of them all adequately. And it's something that we just can't have. And we don't have too many, I hope. I think that are we adequately staffing the cases? Now we've had some. We had the Port Ranch case. We had 2,800 clients, and staffing that and the calls, and that was difficult. And maybe we've learned some things that we could have done better to help, communicate and things like that. But it's a learning process all the time, and it's a changing process. The types of cases are changing, the number of plaintiffs in the cases are changing, and the amount of work that goes into each case is changing.
Yeah, and I think that's what people don't realize, and I didn't at the beginning. Whenever anybody starts their own firm, they're like, okay, 5 years in, 10 years in, 15 years in, I'll have my systems, I'll be good, and things will be set, and things will be flowing. When the reality is, here's Brian Panish, 20 plus, 25 years in, still learning and having a changing of process. How do you stay on top of that?
It's an everyday process. Obviously, the lawyers aren't developing every process. You got to rely on other people, but you got to change when things aren't working. You have to change, your software, your case management. And you got to be, able to do that and move quickly. And it's not so easy.
Yeah, change is hard. I mean, if you've got a system that's working and you're being successful, going in and implementing new things and new processes and new software and all kinds of stuff, that is a commitment. It's almost like a commitment to change. Like we have to analyze and change what we're doing every year or something like that.
Well, I think you do. You got to analyze everything as we do and continually be changing and have goals for the year on new things you're going to implement, new policies you're going to have, new things you're going to develop, and look at what can we do better every year. Look back and say, okay, what can we do better? What happened here? What can we do here? And let's get a procedure or a system in place so that's going to be more efficient and going to work better for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to kind of where the firm is now and in the future. When I was on the outside of the firm, I would have bet that there's no way Brian Panish is involved in the day-to-day of the firm, and he's probably hanging out on a beach. But I would have lost that bet. What drives you to stay involved on a day-to-day basis? I mean, I see you deep dive into these cases, challenge the lawyers on their commitments to settlement numbers and stay on top of them. What keeps you hungry?
Well, I mean, obviously I love the practice. I love the clients, and I want to do everything I can to make it the best for them, and want to hold everybody accountable. That's one of the words I learned from my college football coach is accountability. And when you have a team, everyone has to hold everyone else accountable. And if one person isn't accountable, then the whole team can fail. So we can be tough on the lawyers and, really grind them. And they say, well, I think the case is, I'll give you an example. I won't use names, but a lawyer says, I got to get $2.5 million. That's pretty good. I go, no, it's not enough. You can get more. And this lawyer went and tried the case, picked the jury. Well, first file the motions, eliminate, argue, get continued, pick the jury, call witnesses, and he settled the case for $5 million. So right there is a 50% increase for the client. And he got more experience and he did a great job and he knew the right time to get the case resolved. But at times, you got to do hard better. And what we do is hard, and the hard stuff the people may don't want to do. If you do that better, you're going to be successful. Do hard better.
Yeah. Right. And speaking of, kind of mentoring and coaching folks, a lot of people, young lawyers, they have a mentor, they have somebody that they're learning from. I'm sure a lot of people look up to you. They're on PSBR playbook and they kind of consider you a mentor. But who was your mentor kind of coming up?
Well, I think my first one was my father, who was a lawyer, who was tough on me. But I learned a lot from him, how to be a good witness, how to only answer the question yes and no, don't explain. And then Lee Lipscomb, who I worked with, and Walter Lack, and then, Brown Green, Charlie O'Reilly, Gary Paul, Bruce Brother. I mean, many lawyers. There were some, and when I joined the Green O'Reilly firm, there had been So many lawyers, Brown Green, Bruce Brilette, Gary Paul, Jerry Agnew, Charlie Riley, all had been trial lawyers of the year. And everyone was just, fabulous lawyers, trial lawyers, and they would want to try the cases all the time. There's a competition going on. And I think the competition really is part of it.
Yeah.
Do you want to be in what we call contest living? There's only three areas of life. There's politics, there's winners and losers. Politics, sports, and courtroom law. Everywhere else in life, everybody gets a trophy or a medal and a certificate, and everybody's great. But in those three areas of life, you can only win or lose. That's the only place.
It's binary. Yeah. Yeah. It's binary. Um, the reality is, Brian, and I'm sure, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The reality is there's a lot of people, both on the plaintiff side and the defense side, that wish that you would just go to that beach on Maui and leave. What do you say to
I
them?
like go to Maui. In fact, I got a big case going to Maui right now. So I like Maui, but I love LA, and I love my practice. I love my clients, and it's fun. It's a fun job.
Yeah. So, you're still litigating, you're still trying cases. I think that's important for people to know. I didn't know that when I was on the outside. But what's
What
that?
did you think I was doing?
No, I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that start their career and start their firm and they go, I want to be the next Brian Panish. And it sounds like what you're saying is, I'm still the current Brian Panish. There's no next yet. Hold on a second.
But there's plenty of great lawyers that are doing great things. Now is a great time to be trying cases. And, when everybody else does well, that helps everyone. And what do they say? High tide rides all boats. And I think it's true.
Yeah.
And if somebody else gets a verdict that's big, I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for everyone else because it's going to help all of us. We got to help others, and we're always helping other law firms where they need something, a depo, a motion, opposition, and that's what plaintiff lawyers have to do to battle these insurance companies and large corporations, is to work together as one, sharing with one another everything you can to be successful.
And so, what is, at this point, you've achieved kind of everything there is really to achieve in plaintiff's personal injury practice. What is the long-term vision for the firm?
I think it's just to continue to provide great service for the clients, continue to try as many cases as we can, and get verdicts, and show that you'll take them to trial. And eventually, in the other cases, it's going to pay off. They're going to settle the case, some of them. And if they're not, you got to be ready to go to trial, and you can't hesitate. If they know you're going to hesitate, you're finished. So you got to be willing to try the tough cases and go down there and go to battle and lose some. And that's just the way it is.
I love that. I've got one more question, and we'll wrap up, Brian. I'll let you get back to trying cases because I know that's what you want to do. One question I ask everybody that's on this podcast is, if you could go back and you could talk to the younger version of yourself, the younger Brian Panish, what would you tell him?
I would say, don't take everything so seriously. Just continue to work hard all the time, grinding. But I think what I've been able to do is just what I'm being myself. Be yourself, I would say. Don't try to be someone else. I just be myself and continue to work hard and be nice to everyone and treat everyone with respect and nice. Other defense lawyer, court personnel, judge, everyone. And I think you're going to get a lot back from that, just, helping others.
I love that. That's a great place for us to wrap up. One last thing I want to just throw out there for those that are looking to learn from Brian Panish and the firm. They have a program called PSBR Playbook, which is free. You can log in, and there's law talks and webinars, and it doesn't cost anything to see the materials and all that stuff. What you're planning to speak there, right? What are you speaking about?
I'm speaking about all kinds of things. I'm going to talk a little bit about the practice. I'm going to talk about things to do, talk about cases, and kind of an overview in the beginning of kind of an opening statement of how is it when you go to a seminar that you can get the most out of it, and how I went to them as a young lawyer, and I got a lot out of it, and how I approached them when I would go to the seminar to maximize the benefits. People make a commitment to go to this event. We want to provide top legal education to them and make it beneficial that they can get the most out of it to take back and make a difference in their practice.
Excellent. Thank you very much,
My
Brian,
pleasure.
and thank you for all of you guys listening and watching. We'll see you next time in the next episode of Bootstrapped Solo. And remember, we don't sell anything on the podcast, so if the only way you can help us is if you share it on Instagram, TikTok, spread the word. And if you want to reach out, you know how to get a hold of me, and you can Google PSBR Playbook Live and sign up, and we'll see you in Utah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.